Hello everyone, I've received a number of requests asking about the iPad Lounge and whether I could do a shortened version. The current lecture is about an hour long, and I thought I'd give kind of the quick and easy version to a number of the apps on the iPad. So hopefully this will be helpful, and with that let's go ahead and get the Prezi started. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Peter Trentacoste. It's my 8th year at NKU. I recently moved from Director of Housing to Assistant Vice President of Student Affairs as an interim. And while I was in housing, I moved it from being a paper dependent to really an electronic production environment. If anything can exist online in terms of forms, pretty much it does. And that's something we do for sustainability and also for productivity. The first thing we talked about in the lecture, and something I'll mention here, is really you need to think about what your preferred method of organizing email is. How many folders do you really need, and how many do you have? I know for me I had somewhere in upwards of almost 200 folders when I initially started thinking about my email. When you start playing around with your iPad, you need to start rethinking your organization method. If you've ever tried to file something on here, you'll notice fairly quickly that there's really not an easy way for you to move your files from your inbox and any of your folders. So it makes you kind of rethink the folder system you keep. Now, there are 3 folders that I go with, and they're really pretty simple. Archive, Follow Up, and Hold. And there's within these 3, there is a method to the madness. The first one, Archive, is once you're done with an email, simply it goes into the archive. For the follow-up, that's something that should be checked daily, something that you move things out of the inbox to, something you have not completed but you need to look at. It's a daily reminder. You should check it maybe once or twice a day. And for Hold, these are things like flight itineraries, hotel reservations, a project that maybe is a few weeks out that you need a little bit more time. I would recommend checking this at least weekly. Between those 3, it tends to be that you'll find most emails you can get can be organized and you can find things very quickly. In particular, if you're looking, maybe you had an email system before where you put it by person. If everything's in the archive folder, it's fairly easy just to select and organize the way in which those messages are shown to you by right-clicking and telling it to organize by the from or the to column. Okay, moving along. Dropbox. This is a pretty useful app, and it has been used a lot in the Student Affairs Division. We have a Dropbox that we use amongst all the directors, and it's a great way just to collaborate across departments, divisions, and really find a way to avoid massive amounts of paper. The PC and Mac clients are pretty good. And if you sign up with your nq.edu address, you can find about 500 megabytes free that you can get per referral that you send in. This is pretty helpful because if you think about it, if you look at the actual sign-up plans, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to say $60 or $100 a year. So you can get pretty close to that amount by just getting a bunch of referrals. So give Dropbox a try. It's a really good and easy app to work with, and it works really, when you're on your PC, you'll find that it just looks like a normal folder. One thing I will say on here is don't use Dropbox for folders or sharing sensitive information like Social Security numbers. Make sure you're only using JRK drives. In fact, I know obviously IT has actually told us not to use socials. So in particular, anything that's sensitive, student ID numbers, anything of that nature, make sure that's not here in Evernote. It does not have the same level of security as J and K drives do at NKU. SoftSign. This is a easy, kind of user-friendly way in which you can get documents sent to you through email. You can open them up as a PDF, and you can put your signature on it, insert it, and send that right back to the person. The export feature is a little bit lackluster. You'll need to export the file to a PDF reader prior to emailing it. Perhaps a new update will get this fixed, but I found that in general, SoftSign has the right idea. It is something that, let's say you had an assistant draft a letter for you and you needed to edit it or sign off. That letter could be sent to you with your finger or a stylus. You could quickly sign it, save it to a PDF, and send it off to that person to make sure that they get it where it needs to go. iAnnotate. This is kind of my go-to in terms of reviewing PDFs, marking them up, adding comments, and sending them through email. There's a lot of PDF readers out there, but to me, there's none better than iAnnotate. It gets continuous updates. It's just really smooth and easy. I highly recommend you consider using iAnnotate. Evernote. So this is the basis of what I ended up talking about in the iPad Lounge. This, to me, is going to revolutionize how we do productivity. Instead of looking at a single note and knowing that it really, let's say an email, let's break it out in that way. In email, you really, all you've done is duplicated what we do in the offline world. So let's say an email comes in and it's from your boss. That email comes, you can either move it to your boss's folder, you can make a copy of that email into, say, another folder, or you can delete it just like you can offline. With Evernote, the difference here is that you can still use the same system and create what they refer to as notebooks, but the difference is you can add tags and add context, which to me is more like how the human mind operates. I don't always look at things in terms of the folder where I put it. I'd like to put it in a variety of places so that when I go to review that section, I can remember it. Some of the tags that I use in Evernote are things like active projects or inactive projects, at work, at home, at grad school. And depending on where I might look at my tags, it will reveal notes that were made in those particular taggings. This may sound a little bit overwhelming at first, so I'd encourage you to look at a website that I've put on the blog called www.thesecretweapon.org. It really defines Evernote and puts things in context for you. This is a program that you can start out very simply, but as you get going, you'll find that it's truly powerful, and there's some amazing things that it can do for you and your productivity. I started in July, and I started going without a pen. And first and foremost, I'd encourage anybody trying to become paperless, you just have to give up the pen and the pencil and the paper. There's really no way around it. If you want to go paperless, carrying paper and still living with one foot in the old world isn't going to get you there. Evernote is one of those software systems that truly can get you there. And to me, I really view Evernote as, and my prediction at the bottom here is that it's likely going to become the Facebook, if you will, of productivity. It just has a lot of great connections in terms of new applications, and I'll show you a few of those as we go to complete the Prezi. But it is something that I really believe is just a really solid program. So with Evernote, one of the other things to really consider is the ScanSnap S1500. This program is by and large the best software that you can, the best hardware device you can get, in my opinion, for scanning your documents and integration into Evernote. I'm going to show you real quickly how this can work, and hopefully this won't be too loud as I play it here. Hello everybody. I thought I'd take you on a quick tour of my office and show you that indeed I live the way that I am here presenting on. It's one thing to say something, it's another thing to actually show you inside my office. I'll show you that indeed no paper does play other than what's in the inbox. And I'm going to take a little document here and show you how I use the scanner, what I use is the ScanSnap. It's an S1500. They are a little pricier than some of your average scanners. They run a little under $400. I got this during my time when I worked in housing, and I've been using it for years. It's a workhorse. It is one of the best you can find in the market today, and it's really transformational in terms of what you're able to do once you put it to the test. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, this is front and back. It's about 4 pages, so I think total of 9 once it actually will scan. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here, and I'm going to just press the button, scan. And you'll watch here in a second how quickly the ScanSnap can go. It is picking up both sides of the page as it goes through. And once it's done, I have configured this such a way, just like the USB cable, directly in my computer. Don't need to do anything on the computer. It should just show up here and tell me that it's on its way. Actually down here it does say imported. So I'm going to go over here in Evernote and make sure that it's actually there. And indeed, done quickly. The importer directory is now electronic. And okay, I'm going to stop us there. It goes on for a little bit, but I don't think the content is necessary. I'm trying to keep this as close to under 15 minutes as possible. Okay, so moving on to, well, actually before I go on to egrets list, let me say the ScanSnap, the bonus there is many of your colleagues and your peers are not going to quickly move into a paperless environment. As a result, they will give you much paper, and you'll need to figure a way of how you want to handle that. For me, the scanner is a way I take what is paper and move it to electronic, and thus living by the iPad and living electronically. So you figure out what's best for you, but that's the method in which I've gone. Okay, looking at egrets list. This is a companion app for the Evernote program. and particularly on the iPad. It works as an iPhone app. They have not updated this yet to be an iPad app. I imagine that will happen in the future, but for now, the iPhone app is all you can get, but it's still worth your time and worth your purchase. What this does is in Evernote you can create what's called tasks by just clicking a button, and you'll find the context of that as you learn Evernote. And you can do this in between notes, so you can have, say, 50 notes, and you can create maybe 4 or 5 tasks within each. But what Egrets List does is it will pull across all the notes in individual notebooks and show you your tasks or to-dos based on your notes. So you can be taking a single note, and instead of pulling out a separate to-do list, just create a to-do item within a note, and Egrets List will go through, comb, pull them all together, and show you as one comprehensive list. Now the next part of the beauty is when you click it in Egrets List, when it synchronizes, it will also click it in that Evernote note that you've created. So no need to double enter tasks. You can just place them inside your notes you keep, and the integration of Egrets List and Evernote to me is quite powerful in terms of productivity. Okay, Sketch. Now I haven't used this a whole lot, but I know that it's got a lot of utility. It's a free app, so regardless of whether you find yourself using it or not, it's definitely worth a download. It integrates well with Evernote. It's fairly new. It marks up websites, photos, etc., and sends them to Evernote. So it's pretty self-explanatory once you get into it. I haven't used it, like I said, as much as I should, but there's a bunch of other utilities, and I find that Evernote itself has become pretty powerful in terms of photos. Fast Ever. Now you'll find Evernote might take you a few seconds to get open on the iPad, maybe even up to 5 or 10. Fast Ever is just a quick, bare bones way of entering information into Evernote. The comparison I'd give you is think of Evernote as like Microsoft Word. Think of Fast Ever like Notepad on your PC. It's very basic. You can just get something in there. Notepad always opens quicker. It's the same thing with Fast Ever. Well, with that concludes this Prezi, and I thank you for tuning in and listening to me speak a little bit. Hopefully this has been informative, and as always, if you have any questions, please by all means give me a call. Again, Pete Trentacoste. Let me show you here back onto the blog. studentaffairsipad.blogspot.com is where this presentation will be saved to. And also I'll try to keep it updated at least weekly, maybe twice a week in terms of some productivity tips, iPad tips, or more specifically onto Evernote, because that is truly the way in which I think many of us will be heading as we get into the productivity and trying to increase our productivity over the next couple of years. Thanks once again, and good luck.